Hi, everybody. Welcome back to a special edition of VCTV. That's right. We are hosting a special edition focused all around something very important to each and every one of us, and also a topic we've covered here on VCTV over the last year a number of times because it is so important to us and so impactful to our environment. And that's talking about electric vehicles and talking about EV charging as a whole. And we've brought some of the best and the brightest from around the world, some of which you've seen here on VCTV, others that are new, to share with us what's all happening in this industry. Why electric vehicles now? Why is this such an industry that we need to be paying attention to, both as consumers, as entrepreneurs, and as investors? Well, I've got three outstanding co-hosts and experts to share that with us today. A big thank you to LATOKEN team and to Maria and Hasmic for making today's episode possible. Make sure to check us out on latoken.com to hear from today's speakers and all speakers of the VCTV family. With that, I am your host, Kyle Ellicott. Let's go ahead and introduce today's guests, and then we'll get started in today's special edition. Tolga, welcome back to the show. I'm going to kick it off with you. You're a familiar face to our audience, but those who may not know you, a little intro and a little background, please.
Thank you, Kyle, and thank you for this special episode too. I think this is really important and valuable for everybody. Right now I am the VP of Loop EV Charging Network. We are the one of the fastest growing charging networks in North America. And I've been with the company in the past year. And before that, I was the CEO of an investment company called New Wave Holdings, a public investment company based in Toronto, Canada. I worked on a variety of startups in the past 8-9 years. I had my own company, which got acquired by New Wave Holdings. I helped a lot of startups to grow from pretty much conception stage to going public to Series A. So I have great experience with startups. I have also great experience working with big corporations as well. I worked at Electronic Arts, Spin Master in the past. So pretty much right now I am, as you also know, I'm an investor of New Wave Holdings and multiple other companies. But right now, my full focus is on EV charging, electric vehicles, as it is a massively growing industry. And right now I am with my colleagues, Zach and Frank. So I'm looking forward to this episode.
Awesome. Wonderful. Thank you, Tolga. Zach, again, you're also a familiar face, been here on VCTV a few times, but for those who may not know you, just a quick introduction and background on you.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm Zach Martin. I joined EV Loop back in December. Prior to EV Loop, I was with Ernst & Young for 7, almost 8 years. I also did a stint as a director of finance and accounting at another firm. My experience is in high growth companies, big Fortune 50 companies, and helping companies with transactions, IPOs, et cetera. So I have my background is on the finance and accounting side and trying to help Loop grow in this aspect.
Wonderful. All right. Last but not least, Frank, you're up. Intro and background.
Hey guys, how you doing? My name is Frank Na. I am the COO of Loop. My business partner Dustin and I started Loop almost 3 years ago. Kind of came up with a concept from our experience as energy contractors. Commercial contractors here in Southern California. So our first company that we started about almost 11 years ago now is New Age Energy Solutions, a contracting company that focused on large commercial property energy efficiency. So a holistic approach to building efficiency where we looked at low-hanging fruit from lighting, water efficiency, all the way up to building controls, energy storage, solar, and other energy efficiency related devices. Worked with everything from private companies, small multifamily residential, to large multinational organizations, as well as municipality and federal government type of buildings. And during that experience of running that organization and working with rebate and incentive programs, we identified an opportunity with a large volume of rebate programs coming out in California for EV charging infrastructure. And recognize that there was obviously a huge opportunity for our company to grow in that space. And during that process of trying to find the right solution for our customer base, and obviously to really grow out that division, we realized that there really wasn't an appropriate product on the market from a pricing standpoint, and also from an accessibility standpoint for contractors to leverage into their network and into their customer base. And so ultimately that led to the desire of us to create our own solution to the problem. And that's where the spawning of Loop came about. And ultimately Loop is another entrant into the EV charging infrastructure space. So we make our own level 2 and level 3 DC fast chargers, as well as our own software platform that manages and operates both the network and the revenue generation side of the system.
Frank, just for a moment, take us a little deeper on that. What is a level 2, level 3? What do these levels mean to those who may not be aware of the EV landscape, for instance, if you could?
Yeah, sure. So level 1 chargers, there's 3 levels. Level 1 is considered your low voltage or 120 volt home residential charger. Typically, it's included with the purchase of electric vehicles. Works on standard outlets in homes or any commercial property, and it's a very kind of considered in the industry like a trickle charge, right? Very slow charge, so it can take anywhere from 12 to 18 hours to charge a vehicle from empty to full. Then we have level 2, which is still considered also everything from single family home, residential, light commercial, on up to industrial grade charging solutions. So typically anywhere from about 16 amps up to 80 amps, and provides the ability for doing different things like revenue generation, as well as access control and management, software management of systems on those types of devices. I should just clarify, there are some smart level 1 chargers as well out there in the market. And then level 3 chargers are, or DC fast chargers, are essentially high output, high amperage, direct current electric vehicle charging solutions. And basically those devices are able to charge vehicles much more quickly than obviously your level 2 chargers, but they come in a wide range of outputs, so from 50 kW all the way up to 350 kW. So 350 kW being the highest. That's cars like the Porsche Taycan and the Audi GT e-trons. Those vehicles can accept those, and then a lot of the more economical vehicles or fleet vehicles, are restricted on their input amperage. So essentially, those devices range on the different needs of the facility type and also the users at the facility themselves.
Outstanding. Thank you very much for going into detail on that. And next, Zach, I want to come to you and talk to us a little bit about the competition and general landscape that's happening in EV charging market. When we think about EV charging, I think most people would go straight to a company like Tesla, maybe General Motors, of course, Loop, because of all the work that Toga does here on BCTV. But what does the overall competition market look like? And what is maybe some of the differences between the public and private sectors in the companies that are building in the space?
With the card rate, right, our manufacturing resources 15 years to go to competition or EV that there's in our opinion, comes to distance with other Tesla, the charger, competitors of only our.
Hey, Zach, it looks like we might be having a sound issue there on your side, so I'm going to come back to you here in just a moment as you reconnect. No stress as well, but Frank, I want to come back to you.
I can field that one if you'd like.
Sure, please, thank you.
Could you repeat the question one more time for me, though?
Yeah, absolutely. would love to get just a sense of the general competitive landscape around EV charging, right? We have public and private companies. There's only a handful that I would say are top of mind for most people. However, it's a very big competitive market. And again, we've got public and private companies, but share a little bit about what that landscape looks like, if you could, for us.
Sure, absolutely. I mean, to be honest with you, we're right at the absolute beginning of the industry. I know that EV charging is not a new technology. There are a lot of incumbents in the space. But the important thing to recognize about what we're looking at as far as the landscape is concerned is that the play field is wide open. There are just about every country in the world is just initiating their programs to electrify their countries and their infrastructure in a meaningful way, and support private industries in doing so as well. So, I think there's I don't have it sitting right in front of me, but there's a figure, something like 300 million EV charging stations required in order for us to appropriately electrify the majority of the world for electric vehicles to actually function in the way that your typical combustion engine vehicles operate. That being said, within the space right now of public and private entities, there are, like you said, there are a couple of incumbent names that everybody recognizes, that when you know about electric vehicle charging and you think about what companies are there in that space, that definitely come to mind first. And that's companies like ChargePoint and SEMA Connect and Blink, and over in Europe you're thinking of companies like ABB as well. Obviously EVgo, and then there's software only organizations as well. So there's a bit of a fracture in the industry as well. There's companies that only offer hardware solutions. There's companies that offer software-only solutions, and there's obviously full turnkey solution providers like ourselves or like Blink and ChargePoint that kind of offer the whole meal deal, if you will. And then within that, obviously the competition right now is really obviously getting a large network out there, but it's also trying to find an efficient and economical way of bringing to market the hardware solution, so that it can be more readily available to all different facility types. More importantly, the facility types that, where people are going to be spending most of their time, where charging makes the most sense. So there's the landscape, like I said, it's very much in its infancy right now. I know that, like I said, there's some incumbents and big names. We've seen some public offerings from some of these organizations like ChargePoint and Blink come out, and they're valued at enormous numbers. But ultimately, we're just touching the tip of the iceberg here.
I love it. Zach, thank you, Frank. Zach, anything to add on to that further?
Let me answer the question on private.
Zach, it looks like we're still having an audio issue on your side, so we'll come back to you here in just a few minutes. Don't unmute, because you're having an audio issue. Yep. So we'll come back to you here in a minute. But Frank, I apologize. I want to come back for a second follow-up question there. We talk about this landscape of the companies, as you just mentioned, those in the competitive market. But how are these companies able or willing to compete with someone like Tesla, and again, General Motors and Ford and some of the more established automotive companies in the space that have the infrastructure, have the ability to scale infrastructure quickly?
Well, actually, I think it's more about partnering with those organizations, because ultimately the car manufacturers are dumping the majority of their funding into the vehicles themselves. And so a lot of the OEMs, sans Tesla, they're partnering with organizations like us in different ways. Some of them are partnering on creating publicly available, accessible charging stations. Some of them are partnering with OEMs in the way of selling level 2 EV charging equipment at homes. Some of them are just participating in a way where they want to load the software systems from some of the solution providers into the car infotainment system, so that way it makes it easier for those new purchasers of vehicles to quickly and easily find and access EV charging networks. And like I said, because it's kind of fractured right now, there's no interoperability between the networks, or easy interoperability, right? There's roaming, but roaming, just like with cell phones, has an extra expense to it. Basically, everybody is operating on their own little software clusters of EV charging networks. And so it's just it's interesting time right now. It's exciting.
Very, very exciting. And I think we're going to have Zach back on here with us in just a moment. So Toga, as we welcome Zach back up here in a moment, question for you. Looking at the industry as a whole of EV charging, how are things growing? I mean, are we expanding? Are we contracting? Where is the movement of the industry, and really, how is that creating opportunities within the North American market first, and then we'll look at others?
Sure. I mean, I feel like until this pandemic, EV charging was kind of like a future, in the view for so many companies that, they were installing EV chargers to buildings, like one charger or two chargers. So it was most like a marketing thing to attract more customers. This was the case until, I feel like, until the pandemic. But after this pandemic, things got a little, accelerated and changed. And right now, there's a whole perception change. There's a big electrification movement in terms of all car manufacturers are putting so much weight on manufacturing electric vehicles. And Tesla's valuation is obviously topping the charts. The incredible valuation is just showing us that electrification is the future. So that is creating a huge vacuum and a space for EV charging companies to expand further. So it's not like just one charger or two chargers per parking lot. Right now, there are parking lots that has hundreds of spaces, and you can only find maybe a few electric vehicle charging stations in those parking lots. But right now, to answer your question, right now there's a massive acceleration. So we're going to see not only a few chargers in parking lots, we're going to be seeing hundreds of chargers, or at least dozens of chargers on parking lots. So in terms of how things are growing, it definitely picked up after the pandemic, as all automotive manufacturers are right now really focusing on electric vehicle, industry, and investing into the battery technologies and electric vehicle technologies. And they are also some automotive manufacturers are building their own EV charging solutions too. We know Tesla superchargers are everywhere. I mean, but at the same time, there is a massive opportunity for all these private parking lots, because this is, like I said, this is different than gas stations. For gas stations, you just do it on the go. But with EV charging, basically, these chargers can be installed in everywhere, in many locations. So you can basically charge your car at your home, in your office, on the go, on a freeway, on a parking lot, in a restaurant. There's so many ways that companies right now they can use EV chargers, not only to offer some kind of solution, but also to generate revenue too. Because as they install our chargers, they start making revenue right away, because a certain fee belongs to the owner of the chargers, the site operators, the restaurant, the parking lot, the office building, whatever it is. So there's a huge opportunity, and I actually mentioned this to you in one of the previous episodes too. This is like the democratization of the energy industry, in a sense that back in the day, I mean, not back in the day, even right now, the gas stations right now, when you are pumping gasoline in your car, you pay, and Exxon or Shell or BP, they make money. That's how it works. But right now, things are changing with EV charging. We are also empowering business owners, office buildings, residential buildings, to create a new revenue stream. So this is a huge new growth opportunity, and I feel like this is gonna just continuously and exponentially grow in the North American market. And in the global arena too, I think we are going to see a bunch of American companies, including Loop, growing their presences in the global landscape as well.
Excited, and can't wait to watch this happen and just continue to see how this flourishes beyond North America as well, and looking at other markets. But thank you very much, Tolga. Zach, do we have you back with us?
I hope so. Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and
There we
clear.
go.
He's crystal
No
clear.
more robot.
Yeah.
I kind of like the robot.
Look, I got to say, it was great. I mean, we're talking about electric vehicles here. It sounded like you were almost in the grid, if you were, and just transmitting the electricity between vehicle and charging stations. So we got a taste of what that voice might sound like. But now that you're back, another question for you. What has been the overall response, Zach, from investors and capital markets, both private and public, for electric vehicles and the charging industry as a whole?
Well, it's very attractive to most investors right now because we're still in the very early stages. I think we've touched on this earlier. In my opinion, we're in the top of the first inning of a baseball game, right? When it comes to the EV infrastructure, there's a few big players out there, but there's still a lot to do in the EV infrastructure world. So investors, private and public, are very interested in this field. Plus, you have government agencies, city and state, local, federal governments allocating funds to incentivize building owners and individuals to put chargers in at their homes, their offices, on the go, etc. So there's a lot of money being earmarked towards the EV infrastructure world, and that's guaranteed money. So investors know that what they're putting their money into has growth, a big growth factor to it. The other thing is there's a lot of tax incentives that helps it. So, and plus with the government saying they're going to spend trillions of dollars in the EV infrastructure world. So it is set in stone right now that the EV infrastructure world is going to grow. So now it's based upon EV companies like ourselves, or the EVSC companies like ourselves, to have a good story, have a good product. How do we differentiate ourselves from other competitors? And that's what investors like. Everybody's slightly different. Some are similar, but the competitive advantage that you bring to the table definitely help investors get excited. And it's a very exciting market because there's a lot of money flowing to it. There's a lot that has to be done, and we love where we're at in our stage right now. But does that answer your question?
It does. I think it gives us a good idea of how investors are feeling about this, because this is a new industry for some investors, and understanding how to invest, how others are investing, where the opportunities are. This is all good information that you're all providing. So thank you very much, Zach. And Frank, coming back to you, now that we've got a sense of where things are in North America, how investors are feeling, kind of an overview of the market landscape, talk to us a little bit about the rebate and incentive programs that are out there, and maybe what some of those requirements are for operators to become eligible. I mean, when we see commercials or marketing for electric vehicles, they talk about this, but not much information known. As Tolga mentioned, there's an opportunity for individuals and also commercial to run these new age parking lots with EV charging. But again, what's the incentive? Where's the business model? If you could, explaining a little bit of that to us for those that are listening.
Yeah. How much time do we got? Just kidding. So what kind of rebates and incentive programs? I mean, there's obviously what we have municipality level incentive rebate programs. So right at the city level, along with also ordinances that are paired with that, that are setting the requirements on top of the state mandated electrical code requirements. So they kind of, everything's working, or they're trying to get everything to kind of work together to help not only incentivize, but also require the adoption of EV infrastructure, and not just, okay, I'm just going to put one in and that's all I need to do. They're requiring certain percentages of the parking spaces at sites to be done. But obviously, if they're going to require that, they're offsetting that with some money that's coming from state That's also coming from the utilities. So obviously when we all pay our utility bills, we're paying our service fees, and those service fees end up actually creating a lot of the pool of funding that gets utilized for these rebate programs. So, obviously there are certain leaders statewide or as from a state standpoint that, really are very progressive about these incentive programs. Obviously California is one of those states where we have multitude of different programs. As I discussed, we got a bunch of city-based programs where they're incentivizing hardware and infrastructure costs, or labor and material costs as well. Utility programs that do the same. State-funded programs that are doing the same. New York is very similar in both the design and the operation of those rebate programs. Not quite as robust yet as California. But then we have a lot of other states that are actually doing a pretty incredible job of creating their own unique programs as well. So, Georgia, Colorado, Arizona. I actually think Ohio even has a program that they're coming out with. So, a lot of states are recognizing the necessity of doing this. I think that what we'll also start to see is a lot of states that may not have traditionally participated in other kinds of rebate and incentive programs for building subsidy type of projects, whether it be energy or whatever, once different vehicle types come out. So when we start seeing more of the commercial, or not commercial, but more of like pickup trucks and utility vehicles that are typically used in other parts of the country, say for like agriculture or forestry or whatnot. So seeing more in Middle America getting involved in the rebate incentive program from the state side and the municipality side. I think we're going to see more of that as well. But yeah, there's a lot of different programs that are available right now that we're all taking advantage of. And one of the things that I think, just jumping also partially back to, how different companies can compete with Tesla and the EV, and also what does competition look like? It really comes down to the organization's ability to fully understand how to navigate all these different incentive programs, because every single state is completely different. Every utility program, every single program for that matter, is managed and operated differently. They don't use the same agreements. They don't use the same terms and conditions. They don't use the same processes. They don't even pay out the same way a lot of times. And obviously the differences in the values associated to those different programs. So getting your head wrapped around all that is a lot of work. But ultimately, once a company starts to get a good process in place internally in understanding, getting their fingers into and getting information about these different programs, that's where companies start to really gain some significant competitive advantage, because ultimately, if I'm able to offset 10-15% of my infrastructure costs as a property owner, whether I'm a public entity or a private entity with these funds, that makes a big decision, or makes it a lot easier to make a big decision on investing in this type of solution. But a lot of these programs now are offsetting anywhere from 50, 75, and in some cases even 100% of the entire project costs. In addition to that, when you're taking the rebate funds and you're going in and taking advantage of things like the tax credits, those tax credits are based on what the project's original value is, not post-rebate value. So now where you have these projects that are being covered almost entirely or entirely by the rebate incentive programs in different states, the companies are then also essentially getting almost paid, if you will, through the tax incentives to invest in infrastructure. So it's almost a profit forward investment for installing infrastructure through these different programs. It's just really hard to navigate. Very, very hard to navigate. It's very as fractured as I've mentioned that the EV infrastructure industry is right now. The rebate programs are on a whole nother planet of fractured. So very, very difficult to navigate, but it's just an incredible opportunity to gain a huge competitive advantage if you can learn to navigate that market.
Well, and speaking of potentially another planet, I want to switch real quick into payments, mobile payments, and then also bringing in, things like digital currencies or cryptocurrencies as well. We just had the news break from El Salvador and Bitcoin being recognized as a legal tender as of today that was approved.
Wow.
There's many other countries in Latin America and South America that are being teased out that may follow suit. But without speculation on those, we'll just focus on just the general opportunity. We're seeing digital currencies enter the market in a greater fashion. We're seeing central bank digital currencies and others start to emerge. And with this being said, I mean, there's a huge opportunity for carbon credits. We've had Matthew Lemaire from the Fifth Era talking about his program that he's done around digital currencies and carbon credits. Many others are doing the same. Tolga, a question for you. You know, how do payment systems work for EV charging systems? But more importantly, are crypto payments something in the near future that we may see around EV, whether that's to and or in return for the electricity that is provided?
This is a very, very interesting subject because it has so much future. I can't even like see where it can potentially go. Cryptocurrencies are, you know, I repeatedly told you multiple times, it's a very interesting market. I totally believe in the crypto movement, even though there are like some bubbly things going on in the market. I totally believe in the cryptocurrency movement, and even though like some governments are banning it, sometimes they make it legal again, then they ban it again. So there's a big, you know, going back and forth happening, but slowly I feel like this is happening. The crypto movement and cashless payments, everything becoming digital, is just moving into that direction. As you also know, as we abandon the fiat currency, the cash paper money, things are going to get digitalized, and our digital wallets are going to be, you know, the main point of, you know, transactions for everything that we do in life, from grocery shopping to, you know, buying a Tesla online. You know, you're basically never using cash paper money. Everything is becoming digitalized, and when it is digitalized, blockchain technology gets into the picture, and blockchain and cryptocurrencies is basically like a linked, you know, linked technologies that are bringing us to the future. El Salvador or other Latin America countries making the push, and there are so many other countries. China has been testing their own digital currency for the last 2 years in pilot areas, from what I know. And in many European countries too, some, I think Estonia or something, not 100% sure, but they are completely switched to digital currency already. And as governments, I mentioned this actually in the last episode, as governments get into this, cryptocurrencies are gonna gain so much value, and it's gonna definitely change lives. And in terms of EV charging, electric vehicles, as you also know, like Elon Musk recently, you know, announced that, you know, they were going to accept cryptocurrency payments. They were thinking about getting Bitcoin on board, and now they're, I think, working on Dogecoin. All companies, there's so many companies that are working on integrating cryptocurrencies. Not only is because it's lucrative, it's cool, but also, like, you know, this is the future. People really believe in this moment. And as you like have an app or a service that is, you know, being provided through an app, you need a wallet. And in your app, if you have a wallet, you are just a step away from integrating blockchain to your technology. And when you integrate blockchain, it also opens the door for you to create your own token or cryptocurrency. So right now, we are not at that point. We have our own wallet, and the transactions are very simple. You just download our application, and either pay-per-use or monthly subscriptions, you can use Loop literally in a minute, in 2 minutes. But you're right. I mean, cryptocurrencies are very hot. I think it's the future. And crypto payments are going to be a part of electric vehicles and EV charging in the future.
I love it. Really excited about the future of where we're headed with electric vehicles. Gentlemen, I want to come around for any quick closing thoughts. And then Tolga, I'm going to close with you since you've got the company swag on today of where everyone can find out more about you. But Zach, any closing thoughts on the EV market as a whole, how investors should think about potentially making their first entrance into the space or those opportunities that they can begin looking at as well?
Yeah, I'll just close by saying the EV infrastructure world's growing really rapidly. There's many opportunities to invest in companies like ourselves where, there's a whole bunch of people trying to put chargers in their own properties. There's a lot of financing opportunities for companies to put chargers in their buildings, and companies like ourselves to increase our capabilities, our capacity, etc. And like Tolga said, we're a company that adapts. We're building ourselves like that so we can change with the demands of our customers, the demands of the EV infrastructure world, etc. So the future is bright in this industry, and I think we're in it at the right time. There's a lot of players out there, but it's very exciting and plenty of opportunities to get into in this space to invest.
Wonderful. Thank you. And agreed, Zach, from all that I've learned from you, Tolga, and now Frank, and also other investors here, couldn't agree more with that. Frank, similar question to you, closing thoughts. Now that you've given us a little bit of that technical landscape and understanding the stack of what it takes to build and work into these electric vehicle platforms, any closing thoughts for the audience to know as we head off?
Yeah, within the industry, obviously, like I said, we're in the infancy stage. In reality, who we look at as market leaders in this space right now, they might not even be here in a few years in comparison to how much opportunity there is for companies to grow and build out these networks. Nobody in reality is really the market leader yet, and nobody's really established themselves yet. And ultimately, the primary leader within the space, the company that will perform the best, is the company that's able to bring to market cost-effective, economical hardware. The company that can do that most efficiently and also get it out quickly to building owner-operators across the world will ultimately be always be one of the main and primary leaders within the space, because at the end of the day, the real value within these companies is in the reoccurring revenue and generating that off of the charging stations and off the charging sessions. And so getting a lot of chargers out there, making it more accessible is the key. That is where success will be had for different companies. And so that's kind of what I view the landscape as with my experience.
Thank you very much, Frank. Tolga, close us out. Last closing thoughts. Where can you, the team, and Loop be found online for those that are interested to learn more about the company and connect with all three of you?
Thank you, Kyle. This was great. And I totally agree with, obviously, Zach, with Frank, and so many aspects of what we have been working on. And I think, the EV charging industry is going to grow further, and I hope that people are going to follow this industry very closely, because there's so much things to really catch, and I feel like we are definitely in the verge of a huge revolution, EV and EV charging revolution. So Loop is a company definitely that people should follow, and definitely follow us on social media. Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook. Our website is evloop.io, and you can also personally reach me out at through my website tolgaonuk.com or through LinkedIn Tolga Onuk. I am always here to answer any questions regarding EVs, EV charging, or any other investment related questions.
Wonderful. Tolga, Frank, Zach, thank you all very much for the time today and sharing your thoughts and insights on the emerging and greatly expanding EV industry and market overall. We're super excited and looking forward to how this is going to continue to grow over the next few years. To our audience, thank you so much for tuning in. If you like what you heard, make sure you click subscribe, like, share, and make sure that you listen further. Go back on today's episode. There's some great knowledge that the team provided. Also, make sure to reach out to Tolga, Zach, and Frank to continue conversations about Loop and the industry as a whole. I'm your host, Kyle Ellicott. Big thank you to the LATOKEN team and to Maria and Hasmik for making today's episode possible. With that, we're going to take a short break, and we'll be back here with more VCTV. Take care, everybody. Have a good day.